Welcome to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners, to the Screen the Screener College Basketball Podcast, where we're always talking everything college hoops. You could have been anywhere else on the dial, but you chose to be here with us, Mike and Gus, and we appreciate that. And we're going to continue to get you ready for the college basketball season that's creeping closer. And we've brought in Jared Wulbrun from the Purdue Boilermakers, and you'll find him as a number 14 in your programs. Jared, thanks for finding some time and, sharing some of that inside life of what the student athlete has to go through.
Yeah, of course. I'm on talking hoops, so yeah, I'm all over it.
If you enjoy the plugged-in, intelligent, kind, and insightful guests, just like Jared on the pod, don't forget to give a pod a follow over on Twitter at STheS Podcast. And please leave a kind review if you really like what you're listening to, especially for our esteemed and intelligent guests on your podcast consumption vehicle of choice. Jared, these not so secret scrimmages, you guys just had one recently. Your squad has found the court a couple times in competitive fashion. What improvements did you witness or take part in from game one to game two?
I think some of our younger guys really felt a lot more comfortable out there. I know Caleb First, who's done a great job for us, was thrown into a starting role with the suspension to Mason Gillis. Our system is not easy to comprehend, especially when you're first-year guy. I'm sure if you watch, there's a lot of different actions, and we're one of the few teams that writes plays on a whiteboard. So there are a lot of different words that change each play. So I feel like our understanding in the offense got a little bit better. We ran plays a little more smoothly, and there wasn't as much confusion as there was in the first game.
Quick scout. We love lists here at the pod, and just a quick glance at like All-America lists or NBA mock drafts or, all Big Ten. We view a number of your teammates on those lists. So I guess the question goes, are the improvements that Jaden Ivey made over the summer while playing internationally, is that real? Will Travion Williams just hit a triple-double multiple times? And just how impactful is Zach Edey? Give us a quick scout.
Yeah, first for Jaden. Jaden works his tail off, man. He is there. People say they love the game. I think Jaden's one of those people where he actually means it. He takes basketball more seriously than anything else. Coming from a basketball family with his mom being the head women's coach at Notre Dame and playing in the WNBA. He's had the right people in his corner all the way up until this point, and he's got all of us here kind of helping him through it. But yeah, he's gotten a lot better. He didn't have a great shooting year his freshman year. He was thrust into a big role, so it's not anything to harp on. He has improved, and we've seen in the private scrimmage and then our exhibition last night against UIndy, he shot the ball a lot better, looked a lot more comfortable doing so. So his work is really starting to show, and he's getting a lot of notoriety for it, and well deserved. So he's done a great job. Travion is, all the pub he's getting from everyone is well deserved as well. He's one of the most gifted passers that I've ever been around, and you don't normally hear that with a big a whole lot. Normally you think about back to the basket, and now people are talking about being a stretch five, and his game is so good down in the low post. When he gets over his left shoulder, and there's little anyone can do to stop him. And then to add to that, Zach has blown up like Jaden has with playing overseas in Latvia this summer. I think he averaged double-double easily, and he just looked like it was easy out there for him. And he's another one like Jaden where he has worked his tail off to improve his game. And he went from being, I think he was in not even in the top 400 recruits coming out of high school, and he was new to the game of basketball coming from Canada, and he's turned into such a calm presence on the floor. He never lets anything rattle him. he gets, I mean, in our practices, him and Travion go at it day in and day out. And Coach Painter does a good job of not giving him many calls and making him work for every bucket he gets. So I think that's really starting to show. I mean, he's 7'4", 300. Like, people can't stop Travion. People really can't stop Zach. I mean, a lot of the sets we run, we get really good post position. And, I mean, once you get it to him down there, there's not a whole lot anyone can do to stop him. So, yeah, his work is really starting to show as well.
That's a perfect scout. And I think like every college basketball fan would love to see that matchup happen in practice, like you get to do every day with your own eyes and see those guys, lean on each other and push and, fight for that paint space. That's a tremendous quick scout. And we're looking forward to further success from all of those teammates and yourself. Let's talk about the coach. And Coach Painter seems like, he fairly or unfairly might be part of the title of like the best coach not to make a Final Four as of yet in their career. So I guess what makes him that successful? What's one unique element that you can share about Coach Painter that, makes him successful at legitimately one of the toughest jobs inside the Big Ten?
Man, I can't say enough good things about Coach Painter. He is not only is a great coach, but he's a great person. I think one thing that sets him apart from a lot of other coaches, especially in high major programs, is he doesn't go after the top recruits necessarily. If it fits his style, he will. Like we got Caleb First and Trey Kaufman-Renn this year, who were top 50 guys. But he goes after his type of player. He goes after a Purdue person rather than just a big-time athlete, a big-time scorer. He wants you to, more than anything, be a good person when it comes down to it. And then he wants your skill set to fit our team framework. If he needs a shooter, he's going to go after someone who's a dead-eye step-in shooter like a Sasha Stefanovic, where Sasha was overlooked when recruiting. He was more Missouri Valley, Ohio Valley, that area. And Painter kind of likes to find these diamonds in the rough, quote-unquote, where he did with Ryan Klein. And, someone similar to that is Brian Waddell, who's a freshman for us, where they don't necessarily get they're not big recruits. They don't get big name schools coming after them, but they fit our system really well, and they shine in this system, even though everyone else thought they wouldn't at this level. Right. So I think that's his best attribute, that he could care less what anyone thinks of us, care less what thinks of himself. He knows who he is, and the people who have been around him know who he is, and it's a perfect recipe for success.
Well, it takes a special type of coach to play a little bit of the long game there, especially with programs inside your conference and nationally for that reason, where you're just going to go for a talent grab and just try to get the most productive player that you can get, and not necessarily fit into that system, but have that player fit into what you're trying to do. And it sounds like Coach Painter really knows what he's looking for, has an excellent eye for that type of talent. And to be honest, just sounds like an unbelievable architect for the roster and for the locker room.
Yeah, he is. He's great. I mean, like I said, can't say enough good things about him, and I think everyone who's ever played for him or coached with him would say the same thing without a doubt.
Yeah, I think he's highly regarded. You're totally correct there, Jared. All right, so let's get into practice or on the court here. Toughest guard. Who has been the most pain in the tuchus guard for you? Like whether it be in a game, on the scout team, practice, scrimmage. Who is the toughest student athlete that you've had to guard and body up against? Maybe on your team or in your program or elsewhere.
I think when you talk about all around getting out in a full court and pushing in transition, I think there are very few people who can keep Jaden Ivey in front of him. He is a runaway train when he gets the ball in his hands in a transition situation. His change of speed, change of direction is unmatched, and that's why it's a big reason why he's getting all the pub he's been getting. There are very few people who have that type of speed and quickness to them. In a half court setting, Sasha's really tough to guard. He's played so many games that he knows He knows how to get into your body and be able to come off screens the right way to make you go under, and then he flies away to the corner and relocates. He knows how to rub you right off a screen if you go tight with him. He's someone I've had to guard a lot last year more than anything. And, I mean, he's just he kills you. You run into every screen possible, and he gets his look no matter what. So those were the two I would probably have to say.
I think that Jaden sounds unbelievably slippery. And like you mentioned, his change of gears is kind of special. And it's almost, I'm sure that one of the things that you try to guard against when matched up against Jaden is to pay attention to that change of speeds, but also for him to regulate it the proper way so he can get the greatest advantage that he can. And it sounds like Sasha's like game IQ is like through the roof. If he's going to do all those nuances and subtleties, just trying to get an open space on the floor, like you mentioned in the corner or coming off something, both of those sound like a pain in the tuchus for sure. All right, let's go. Let's just dive into, your, kind of student athlete life here. And two-part question. Toughest element about being involved in a D1 sport as a student athlete, and what's the most rewarding chunk of being in that same frame? So most challenging and maybe most rewarding thing that you've run across thus far being a Division I student athlete.
Yeah, I think it's funny when I hear people kind of talk about athletes have it all and they live somewhat of a glamorous life. It really isn't. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's very time demanding. I'll spend anywhere from 6 to 7 hours at the gym on any given day. There's just so much that goes into it with the film that you have to do. If you're dealing with any type of injury, the rehab that goes into it, you're lifting almost every day. You're getting shots up on your own. You're getting shots up before practice time. The time management aspect is not easy. And then you throw in your class schedule on top of that, and then the travel that goes in with the season. And that, I would definitely say that's the most difficult part. And I try and help our young guys as much as I can with just giving them advice on the best ways to go about managing your time. I'm in my senior year here, and I've found the right way to go about it for the most part, and kind of find a good schedule and something for myself. Writing assignments and everything down and keeping a schedule really keeps me on task. And I know when I have free time to kind of lounge around, and I know when I need to be in the gym or in the weight room or things like that. So time management definitely is the biggest, and especially for younger guys. I would definitely say the most rewarding thing is playing in Mackey Arena. I know it will sound like I'm biased saying this, but it's 100% the toughest arena to play in. I was telling, like I said, I was talking to our younger guys. They were kind of talking about our first scrimmage and that it had already sold out. And I was trying to explain to them the feeling you get when you run out of the tunnel onto the court just for our warm-ups, and they're playing the fight song and the fans are going crazy. And I tried to explain it to them as best as I could, but it's almost indescribable, the feeling you get. I'm in year 3 here at Purdue, and last year, obviously with COVID, we didn't have the same atmosphere, but I remember from my first year, you get those butterflies no matter how many games you play in Mackey. You get that same feeling every time, and that, I would say, getting that experience and then playing in a game in Mackey and scoring and having your phone blow up in someone in my position, that's something that I'll never forget when my playing career ends. So that's definitely the most rewarding.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things there. The time management for a Division I athlete is impossible, especially when you're talking about the type of travel that a program like yours does on a weekly basis. And then, I mean, they're for real. It's one of the most underrated venues in the whole entire nation as far as like home court advantage. And I guess that leads us to our next question, Jared. And we're talking to Jared Wulbrun. Please give him a follow at Jared WULBRUN on Instagram and over on Twitter. And you can also find a couple of his things in the future over at stockrisers.com. So Jared, that you mentioned that was missing last season, not only for yourself and your program, but for, fans and programs across the country. it was impossible for anybody to figure out and find the right answer. But do you think you can just revisit one of the larger challenges last year, dealing with C19 and trying to, find success on the court with all the hurdles that every program had to jump over?
Yeah, I know it wasn't easy for anyone, whether you were at home with a job or just working through all the Zoom calls that everyone had to deal with, whether it was school or work. Playing was definitely different. The travel that went into our season was different for sure. Masks everywhere, of course, and we couldn't eat on the buses, on the planes. We as a team decided that was something smart to do to try and lessen just the spread of COVID. And then once you got to the location you were playing at, meals were all alone. You'd go down to a ballroom or whatever at the hotel, and you'd go upstairs and eat it by yourself. Masks on the bus to the games, on the bench. It's just it was unprecedented for everyone across the country. So I think just trying to get used to it as best you can was very challenging. And I'm someone who's moved around a lot through my childhood, through my dad's job as a college basketball coach. So I'm very adept to these types of situations. I kind of embrace them head on. But for guys who kind of hadn't had anything like that, it was difficult for them. And like I said, with the younger guys and trying to help them out as much as I can, I tried to help our guys out last year. And just if I know with all the mental health issues going on with COVID as well, if they needed someone to talk to, I was there to help talk to them. And I just kind of I was cool with it. It was something I embraced. It was, in my mind, it was something no one had ever been through and no one hopefully would ever have to go through again. So I kind of took it as like, this is something that I'll be able to tell my family, my kids for the rest of my life. And, I think I felt as if I handled the challenges well. But no, there were definitely some trying times, and it was not easy for anyone. So.
Yeah, you illustrated just some of the subtle things perfectly right there. And you mentioned that how you're going to consume your calories and how is that going to work? And so you can perform at a high level on the road that night. So the things that maybe the student athlete would take for granted, or maybe the fan from afar, like myself, would just think would be automatic. It then became another thing to hold your team and your program accountable for, on top of everything else that is normally on the checklist there. That makes perfect sense. That's a perfect illustration. All right, let's get to some philosophies here and some changes, right? The college game, is slowly trying to morph into and copycat a little bit from the NBA. You already mentioned a couple of those that you guys are trying to infuse, higher volume in threes, which is metric enforced, endless wings and positionless basketball and two-way wings, and the value of dexterity with the ball, which you mentioned, Jaden is incredible with. What elements do we need to pay attention to in this particular college basketball season that might impact results? Not dissimilar from the success that we've seen from Arkansas using their positionless ideals with Coach Muss, or Alabama and Villanova, where they're going to really stress getting three balls up, or maybe we can even throw Belmont into that mix where their 2-point efficiency is really efficient. So what trend or what element do you think is going to come this year in college basketball that we should pay attention to as fans?
I definitely think the game's moving more towards small ball and, 3-pointers and getting up as many as you can. As it relates to our team, I think we're not necessarily the opposite, but our focus is definitely getting the ball in to our big guys, Zach and Travion. When you have two players that are that impactful down on the low post, why go away from them? Why? If Zach can get position inside the paint, get 2 feet in the paint every possession, why not throw it to him every time? And the same with Travion. And in Travion's case, if you double him to get him out of there, he's such a gifted passer that we're going to get the threes that everyone's wanting. So we're surrounding those guys when they're in the game with shooters like Jaden, Sasha, Isaiah Thompson, Eric Hunter, Brandon Newman, Ethan Morton. All those guys can shoot the ball. And even our fours in our lineup with Mason Gillis when he returns, Trey Kaufman, and Caleb First. I mean, every guy that's not our five can shoot the three ball and shoot it well. So it really leaves the teams we play in a bad situation because you can give up an easy two if you don't double because those two guys are so dominant. Or if you want to risk it and try and double them, especially when Travion's in the game and Zach's gotten a lot better at passing as well, he can just dot someone right in their shooting pocket. And as good as shooters as we have, chances are that ball's going in. So as much as the game's going away from it being a big man game and throwing the ball inside, I think we're almost doing it more. And that's another great part about Coach Painter is the game can change all it wants. Coach Painter's going to do what Coach Painter thinks is going to work best for us and the team that we have. And I think going inside and letting our team play through that is going to help us the most this season.
Well, if we just, reflect back upon the successful college basketball teams that have gone to championship games and won championships, we see that recipe with UNC and Roy Williams playing with two bigs. We've seen that recipe of the post-to-post passing for Gonzaga when they've had two talented bigs and going back and forth. So the elements and the ingredients that you're proposing here have found success in the not so far, not too distant past. So why not in the pretty near future? Why not find further success for the Boilermakers?
It's when Virginia won their national title, they were one of the least scoring teams in the country. They used their offense and they broke people down and got easy buckets. And that's kind of something we can see ourselves doing, that we have so many different sets and little wrinkles to our offense that if you run every play through exactly how it's supposed to go, teams are going to break down. And we have so much offensive firepower on our team right now that chances are you're going to get a bucket if you break someone down and stay disciplined throughout a whole possession. And then you throw in the element of doing that throughout a 40-minute game. And we really feel like that could be a strong suit for us this season.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how successful this edition of the Purdue Boilermakers are. Again, Jared, thank you so much for a couple of minutes breaking things down for your team and then just on college hoops overall and really helping paint the picture of some of the struggles from last season and what we can look forward to this season. So again, please give Jared a follow over on Twitter at Jared Wulbrun and give him a follow on Instagram, and then keep an eye out at stockrisers.com for some of his content that'll be coming your way to really give you an insight on what it's like to be on the college basketball Division I landscape. So, Jared, thank you so much again. We totally appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Glad you guys decided to have me on. It's been great. Thank you.
Of course. Good luck this season. Compete well. Cheers. Salatra, Gatsalazia. Arigato, everybody.